Hi, everybody. Good evening to everyone. It's a pleasure to have all of us here. My name is Grace. I am Team Accel, and I want to welcome each and every one of us here to our webinar, developer webinar. Today, we're going to talk about how to receive payments from USSD applications with Junip Pay. And our expert is from Junip Pay. And we are so glad to have him here with us. He's called Mr. William Owusu. Today, he's going to be taking us through our USSD application development, and we're going to witness a lot of hands-on coding demonstration and a seamless integration. I believe we are all ready for this. So get your book and your pen, and let's get started. Mr. William, let me just okay. Mr. William.
Yes. Hi. Hi, Grace.
Hello.
Okay.
I hope you're doing well anyways.
Yes.
That's great. So please, the platform is all yours.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So good evening, everyone. And today's presentation is on how to receive payments from a USSD application with JuniPay. And for our USSD integration, we are going to be using Accel for this. So I think I'll just share the presentation. Okay, so I hope everyone can view the slides that we have present now. Okay, so we will talk a little bit about Accel, JuniPay, some technical details that you need during the integration, and then the integration process where we would attempt a live session, some of the benefits of having a USSD application that can receive payments, some challenges that can develop while building this, a few use cases, and some resources to access this, and then we'll have a Q&A at the end of everything. Okay, so when we talk about Accel, who is providing us with this, the USSD interface that we are going to be using. Now, Accel is a USSD provider, and they are actually a provider that you can use your USSD to provide airtime top-ups, account balance checks, mini statements, voting, surveys, utility services, etc. So through Accel, you can build USSD applications and then integrate all these features into it. And then when we go forward and then also look at JuniPay. So JuniPay is a payment service provider here in Ghana. And with JuniPay, you can actually receive payments, do disbursements, remittances, and a few other things. So when it comes to JuniPay, you do have the chance to make payments, okay, and integrate with their API and then make payments. So talking about a few technical details concerning our integration, we would be looking at security, whitelisting numbers, secure handling of token and keys, and then we'll also be looking at using HTTPS usage, because you would also like to transmit your information and your data securely. So we'll take a look at that. So I think not to waste too much time, we could begin with the integration, which will come with the live session. But before that, I would like to lay down a few details. So for the integration for JuniPay, what JuniPay requires for you to get your tokens, your keys, and anything that you can use to access their endpoints. For a sole proprietor, all you'd need is your certificate of registration, the Ghana card of the owner, and then your Form A. And then when it comes to the companies, you would also need your certificate of incorporation, your Ghana card of two directors of the company, and then a Form 3. All right. So for Accel to register on the platform is quite simple. So I would try to just share that quickly so that we could look at that. All right. So if you can see my screen, so we have the Accel page showing, and then for sign up, we have a first name, last name, email address, your telephone number, and then you are in. You can easily sign up. Okay. So I think as we all developers here, I think we are all familiar with VS Code. So we are going to use VS Code for this. And what we'll be doing here is we are going to create a simple server, and we are also going to write our USSD code, and then we are going to do a simple integration with JuniPay to see how we can integrate payments into our application. All right, so the first thing that we have to do is take a look at the documentation. So for Accel's documentation, once you go to the website and then you tap on documentation, you are able to view what exactly is needed for you to do your integration. So you're able to go through, you know why the USSD is preferred, and then you see how it works. So how it works is quite simple. A user enters a USSD code on their phone, it goes to the Accel gateway, and then it's routed to your web application. So that's why it made mention that we would be creating a simple web server so that we can receive the client request from Accel and return a response to them. And then that response is going to be translated by Accel into a menu on the screen for our users. All right, so when we go down a bit, there are a few questions that people would like to ask concerning all this. I think everything has been answered here, and then now we get to the main part of the integration. So the first part is some requirements for USSD setup. So if we look at the documentation, we can see that we need an Accel account and then an endpoint URL. So the endpoint URL is where all your requests for your registered extension will be routed. So when you subscribe, you would need to provide this so that Accel can send you the information, and then you can also do what? Respond with the necessary information. As you can see, they are telling us that all requests will be submitted by a post method. The request data will be in JSON format, and our response data will also be in JSON format. These are this is a request payload, as we can see over here, and then a response that we're also going to receive when that happens. All right, so let's begin with a coding session quickly. All right. So if everyone can see my screen now, see that we are in VS Code. I'm just going to create a simple folder that we can use to access this. So I'm just creating a simple folder, and then we will. All right. So I've created a folder. I'll just open that with my VS Code, and then we can proceed. Okay. So the folder is Accel Juni, and then the language of choice here will be JavaScript. So I'll be using Node as my backend for this, and then we'll be using Postman to make a few requests, and then by the time we are done, we should be good to go. All right. So just like any node project, we would have to initialize everything, and then the first thing that we're going to do is an npm init, so that we can initialize packages and other things. So I'll just see into this. Okay. Okay. So we are initializing a simple node project, and then we are going to begin with this. Okay. So we've done a simple initialization, and we have a package.json given to us over here. So the next thing that we are going to do is get our server up and running. So for anyone who normally uses Node, you know that Express is probably the quickest way to get up and running. So we'll create a simple file, app.js. We will install our Express here, and then so I'll just get a quick terminal, and then okay, so okay, all right. So we can npm install Express, and then once it's done, we can begin. Okay. So even while it's in the process, we can begin. First thing that we have to do is require Express in our project. Okay, so we'll require Express in our project. Okay. And then, okay, we're also going to provide a body parser. So a body parser is how you'll be able to get the request, translate them to JSON, and then also do what? Send requests to in JSON. So we can also add our body parser to it. And so I'll just call this a body parser here, and then we require that. So I'm requiring it for now, but we would do the installation as soon as we are done. Okay. Okay, so we have our body parser 2 available, and then the next thing we are going to do is initialize our Express. Okay, so we have Express running. Okay, and then we are going to consider a port. Okay, so say a port, and then we will use maybe 3005. So we'll just hard code a port here, 3005. And then we are going to listen on that port. Okay, we are going to listen on that port. Okay, so ports, and then we have our callback, simple callback. Then we are going to just log that in our terminal, so that at any point in time, we know that our server is running. Okay, so running on localhost, and then we have our ports being 3002. All right, here, so that we can show what we are running on. And then, as I said, we use body parser to translate the responses and requests that we get to JSON, so that we can work with it. So using our initialize Express app, we can do app.use, and then just use the body parser. It has a function inside called JSON, and then we are good with that. We can also extend it to other URL requests. So we'll use body parser here, and then we can say that our URL encoded. Okay, and then we are going to just set it to a false flag for extended. Okay, all right. So we do have this now, and then the next thing to do is just to define a route, so a home route or something, and then I'll do that while installing body parser here. Okay, so the next thing to do is just to get a route and then work with it. So what we are going to do is we are going to create a simple file, okay, a simple file for our routes. All right, so body parser is done installing, and then we are going to just create one here. So we can say USSD route. Okay, dot JS. Okay, so we do have our USSD route.js created. So that means that we can go ahead and then do what? Call it here, and then I can say USSD route is, then where can we find it? Okay, so we have our USSD route here. All right. So next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to set the USSD route to this, to only one forward slash, to only one forward slash. For those of you who have used Express before, you know that based on the file that you are using, you can declare several routes names or several route paths for different files that you would use. But for this one, we'll just use one and then just USSD route here. Okay, so we do have to do something in our USSD route file for it to be able to pick it up and then use it. So what we are going to do is that we'll go to our USSD route file, and then we are just going to call the router module here. So we'll just declare variable router, and then we'll require router in here, the express router here. Okay. So sorry, let me just get Express running here first. Okay, and then I can say the router is Express dot router, and then I'm going to get that instantiated. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is we have to export the router so that what we have here in our app, you can see that we are using this file for that. We can do what? We can use it. So I'm just going to do an export here. Let's export. And then I'll just say module.export is equal to router. Okay. So since we do have, so since it's a route file, it means that what we can actually pass data. We can pass data here. So that means that we can actually put a route here that can be called, and then we will get feedback from that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a router.get, and then I'll say that when you hit this endpoint, all I want you to do is, let me just quickly get request and then our response. And then I'm going to say that when you hit this router, I just want you to maybe a code of 200, and then data, I'll say maybe you are home. Okay, we can say you are home, meaning that right now we've done what is quite simple. We've been able to create a simple server and then build a route on it. And then for that route, we are saying that it's just this forward slash. And as soon as you be able to get there, we should just send you are home. So we can actually run our server now. So in development, it's actually advised to use a package called nodemon so that you're able to restart the server restarts automatically based on the changes that you perform in it, so that you don't have to manually have to start and stop the server every single time you make a change. So I'll just install that here. Okay, so while I'm installing nodemon, for me to be able to run nodemon, I would have to come into my package.json and then say that when I run a command, which will be npm run and then anything that I put here. So I'll use dev for this. So when I run npm run dev, what I want you to do is that I want you to use nodemon to run my base file or my server file, which is app.js. Okay, that means that when we run npm run dev, we are going to, the app.js is going to what? Spin up, and then we will get our server running, and then it means that we can begin to make requests to our server. Okay, so we are going to do an npm run dev here, and then once we have our npm run dev up and running, you can see that we are currently running on localhost 3005. Okay, so we do have to make a request to it, and then I would, okay, so I'll just be using Thunder Client, which is baked into VS Code, to just make the request for you to view what we do have right now. Okay, so all I'll do is I'll just tap on a new request, and then I can see that currently we are on localhost, is on port 3005, and I'm saying that when you access this route, it should give you what? It should send this to you as a user. So I can say http localhost 3005 / okay, a home route. Okay, and then it's a get request, and then when I do hit that endpoint, what do I get? Code 200, you are home, meaning that our server is up and running, and then we can do what? We can actually proceed. Okay, so now that our server is up and running, the next thing that we have to do is we have to now begin to build our USSD application. So what we'd like to do is that, based on what we saw in Accel's documentation, we are actually going to take that and then proceed with having an endpoint that Accel can actually do what? Accel can actually hit with the response, and then we can also send them a request with that. Okay, so I'll just log in. I've already created an account, so I'll just quickly log in and then show you the process of purchasing your USSD. And then so here, so we do have an you have the chance to enter an extension here, and then you also have to provide a callback URL. As I said, that URL is what you are going to be using to receive the request and then also push any responses to Accel. So in that case, we can just check the availability of an extension. So I'll just try *928 *38 hash. I'll check the availability. Okay, so it's available, and then for 750 for this. Okay, so for payments, okay, and then 750. So I do have 750 my balance that I can use now. So I just click on, okay, for payments and mini mat. Okay, and a mini mat for, okay, I'll just add the USSD payments here in a mini mat. I have pay now, and then it means I've actually purchased this extension now. So this extension is for me, and then I can go to manage, and then in manage I can do what? I can provide the endpoint URL for Accel to do what? To give to me. Now, for me to provide a URL, it would be normal for people to just say, oh, I can place my local host here and then do that, but that's not secure. So what we can do is that we are going to actually expose our local host to the internet. And to expose our local host to the internet, what we are going to do is that we are going to use a tool called ngrok. Okay, we are going to use a tool called ngrok to expose our local host to the internet. Okay, so if you can see my terminal in VS Code, all that I'm going to do is ngrok and then HTTP and then my port. So currently we know that the port is what, 3005. So HTTP and then 3005, and then it's going to produce sorry, I think there's an error here. Okay, I think I'll just run that again. Okay, all right, so great. So we do have a secure link now that can be accessed on any web client. So we do have one here. So we just have to go back to Accel and then provide that to them. But since it's a USSD route, instead of just passing just slash, since we'll be writing our code in this route, we'll just convert that to USSD, and then we have that available here. So we are going to provide our base URL slash USSD and then provide that to Accel for them to be able to configure or set us up. Okay, so that has been added to Accel. Sorry, I think I do have, okay. So I've added that link to Accel. I just have my USSD here, and then I can just save this so that Accel can configure this for me. All right, so our current endpoint URL, this is it. So this also means that since this is now exposed to the internet, if I make any request at all with that same endpoint, I'm going to do what? I'm going to get the request I'm getting. So instead of localhost, if I actually use the endpoint that I got from my ngrok and add my USSD, when I send my request, you can see that what I'm getting this. Okay, so anyone anywhere can actually access this, and it's also secure. So the security aspect is also very important here. All right, so we can actually begin with our coding of the USSD application. Okay, so in our coding of the USSD application, when we go through the Accel documentation, there are a few things that they are requesting from us. So I'll just copy that and then paste it here. So Accel is requesting this from us. Okay, they are just requesting these things from us. We are supposed to be providing these things to them, and then they can also do what? They can also give us what they need. So we will be sending them a response at every point in time for them to be able to generate these things for us. Okay, so let's begin with the coding. All right. So Accel will be sending us. Okay, so I'll just delete this for now. And then what Accel will be sending us, we'll be getting that in a request body. So I'm going to be retrieving all those details from my request body, and then I can say that since they're expecting a session, I'll be expecting what? A session ID. I'll also be expecting a new session. All these things are picked from the Accel documentation. So if you actually go there, you can follow an MSISDN, user data, and then the network. All right. So I'm going to be getting all these from Accel. Okay. So moving forward, what we can do is that we can now say that, okay, just to be on the safe side, we can say we are going to log all the details that we get from Accel. Okay, so I can say details from Accel. Okay, so we are logging all details from Accel, and then I'm getting that in the request body. Okay, I'm getting that in the request body. Okay, all right. So the app we are going to be building is going to be a simple payments app, meaning that is going to be in the view of a business owner. So a business owner has contacted you as a developer to just build a USSD application for them that they can use to take payments. So meaning that we are going to be building it with the person who is going to create or trigger the prompt in mind. So for example, if someone is at a bakery, a fuel station, anywhere, the attendant at the post can just take have your USSD application on hand and then just trigger a prompt on the customer's phone and then make the payment. Okay, so there are a few things that we are going to initialize. So we can say the message. So this is the message that the user will see on their USSD screen. And then since this is a mini mart, we can also create something called a service. Okay, so probably for a mini mart, they'll be buying fuel or maybe food. All right, so we can also do that. And then Accel also has a continue session, okay, in the response that we are supposed to provide. So we can also initialize that. You can say continue session, and then we are going to also do what? We are now going to start with our coding. Okay, so what's going to happen is that when someone gets to your endpoint, okay, so when Accel gets to your endpoint, they are going to be expecting something from you. They are going to be expecting a response from you, okay, and then that response that we are going to have is we are going to say that the response that we are going to be sending Accel is okay. So we can just create a simple object that will be sending to Accel. You can find that in their documentation. It's quite simple to follow. So they're expecting a session ID. So we will also pass that since we've already defined it here. And then they are also expecting the MSISDN from us. So we are also going to provide that. And they are also expecting the user ID. Okay, so the user ID is also going to be generated by Accel. So in fact, I'll just add it here. Okay, all right. So they're also expecting a user ID. And then they are also expecting the message, the continuous session parameter, and then also they will also be giving us the network. So I'll take the message and then the continue session. Okay, and then we are also taking the last thing, which is the network. Okay, all right. So now that we have this information, it means that we can do what? We can now send the response to Accel. So we can just say that we are going to send the response that we do have over here to them. Okay, all right. So we can begin with our oh, sorry, that's errors. Okay, all right. So we can proceed from here. So there are a few things to note. One thing when it comes to security is also to ensure one or two things. So one thing that we are going to ensure is that the USSD code that we purchased is the same one that is being passed in the user data. So that means that if someone enters *928 *355 and then it accidentally comes to us, we do not allow the user to proceed with whatever they want to do. So we can actually place that in here at the top, and then we can see that our USSD code, okay, the USSD code that we purchased was a *928*, and then it was a 38 hash. Okay, it was a 38 hash. So we'll be doing a check there. In addition to that, we also have to look at the session data. Okay, so that means that when a user enters some information, we'll need to store that in an object. because it will be a lot of information, so that we can retrieve everything, and we can even add on to it. So I can see that the current session that the user is on, so the user session data, okay, is going to, I'll just initialize that to an empty object that we have over here. Okay, so let's begin. All right, so we are getting new session from Accel. That means that when someone dial *92A*38#, and then Accel gets the request and then they send it to us, we are going to be getting something from them, the new session, and then the user data. So new session and user data will be retrieved from Accel. Okay, so we can say that if our new session, so new session means that the person is now beginning the whole process, new session, and then our USSD code. Okay, so if our our user data, okay, our user data is equal to our USSD code that we've done over here, then you can begin the process for that person. Okay, then you can begin the process for that person. So what I'm going to say is that since Accel is also providing us with a session ID, we can say that our user session data, okay, our user session data is going to have a special kind of identification. And since Accel provides us with a session ID, we can actually use that and say that, so for that user session, let us store some details. Okay, so we can begin with a first step and say that since there will be several steps, we can initialize one and say that when they begin, it means that their session data, they are literally on step 1. And then we'll be taking money from them. So we can look at an amount. So just set that maybe undefined for now. And then we can also look at the service. So maybe if it's food or fuel, maybe you like to store that information somewhere. I can also set that to an undefined here. And let's say we are taking their phone number, because we also need to trigger something there. So we'll take the phone number, just and everything together, and then we have our undefined, and then we would also take the reference. Okay, the reference. So in case you like to add something to it to show you the exact transaction that happened, we can show a reference. All right, so we are saying that if everything is correct, then let's initialize the user session data this way. And then the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to show the user a message. Okay, so we've currently said that our message is what we are going to be showing the user on their screen. So the first thing that we are going to show is maybe welcome to Bob's Mart or Mini Mart. Okay, welcome to Bob's Mini Mart. And then we are going to use a new line termination here because it's a USSD, it's on a USSD screen, meaning that it's highly likely that they are going to be getting it in a way that might not, if you don't give them a new line, everything is just going to be on one line and then be messed up. So we can get a new line there, and then we can say that after the new line, add on to the message. So we'll say that the rest of the message, and then we are going to say the rest of the message should be maybe 1, pay for fuel. Okay, we have a new line here, and then we can say that pay 2 will be pay for food. Okay, so we have pay for food here too. All right, and then we would also set their continue session. So Accel, the documentation says that if we still want to keep a session open for the user, we have to pass a continue session here. So we'll say continue session is going to be true. Okay, so if you want to end it, then we can set that to false. Okay, so now that we have this, we can do what? We can just attempt, okay, to get to this endpoint and then see whether we are getting what? We are getting the information that we are returning here in the response. Okay, all right. I think before that, let's just add one condition, maybe an extra condition that will handle a few things. Okay. All right. Okay. I think so. Let's just add another condition. So we're going to say that else if. Okay. So else if the new session is false. So new session is what? Is false now. Okay. New session is false. Okay. And we also have the user session data set to a step 1, then that means that what we can run a check. Okay, we can run a check over there and then take the customer's number. Okay, so we can say that, and then the user session data with the session ID that has been provided to us. Okay, if the step in it, if so, meaning that if they are still in step 1, then what are we going to do? We are now going to do what? We are going to say that the service that they are coming for will be either what? A 1 or a 2. So I can say that user session data, and then I can say that in the session ID, then set the service to what? Set the service to whatever user data that the user has entered. Okay, so dot service, and then I'm going to say that that's going to be whatever the user has entered in the user data. Okay, so continuing with this, we can also proceed and then say that even after you've done this, so after you've done this, meaning that now the service that we have here, so they're either paying for fuel or food, that service has been what? Set as what? 1. Okay, that service has been set as 1, and then we can proceed to also say that, okay, so I would like to do one thing first. So since the application is going to be used by a business, okay, we wouldn't want bad actors doing what? Anyone at all just randomly entering the USSD code and then triggering prompts on other people's devices. Okay, so we can create a sort of white listing, a white list of acceptable numbers who can trigger the prompt. So I can say I can put some numbers in the white list. So I'll just say white list, and then I will just, so for now I'll just say that the only person who can trigger this prompt is this number. Okay, the only person who can trigger this prompt is this number. Okay, so that means that even if you enter the code and then your number hasn't been whitelisted, we can actually prevent you from showing anything from triggering anything on the user's page. So I can go ahead and then also say that if the user's session, so I'll just do a check here. So even after setting the service as 1, I'm going to do a check and then say that if the service, okay, so I've just checked the user session data, and then I'll say session ID, and then I'll say that if the service that has been entered, so I'll just service, if the service that has been entered is a 1, so let's say they are paying for fuel, and then and also their number, okay, is included in the wide list that we have. Their number is actually included, so I can say wide list dot includes, and then you see, Accel is also giving us the MSISDN. So the MSISDN is the number that actually made the request to the code that we have. So I can see that if that MSISDN number, okay, I can find it in my whitelist, then it means what? You can proceed. Okay. If I can find that number, it means that what? The user can do what? Proceed. So at that point, I would say that maybe service is 1. Okay, so let me just initialize maybe a service here. Okay, so I can, just to keep track, so I can say that service is 1, and then my message is that, okay, I can see my message is, please maybe enter the customer's number for fuel. Okay, so I can say that they should enter the customer's number for fuel. Okay, and then I can do what? I can continue the session 2. The continue session, I can set it to a true, and then I can also do what? I can increment the step that we have. So you see, currently it was step 1. So that would mean that whatever step they are on, we have to do what? We have to increment it. So I can say that in the user session data that has the session ID as the key, wherever we find our step, we can do what? We can actually what? Increment it. Okay. We can what? Increment it. So I'll just do maybe +1 here. Okay, just make it simple. So if this is true, show the user this. Else, if there is something off about the number, you realize that the number is a number that hasn't been authorized. I can see that this is a service that they try to access, and then I'm going to show them a message that will say that you are not authorized for this service. Okay, maybe you are not authorized for this service. Okay, and then we can do what? We can go ahead and then close the session. So our continuous session will now be what? False. So that immediately they are what? Kicked off. Okay. I can also, so if we proceed, I can also do the same thing for food. Okay, so let's say it's food that they're also trying to access. So we can just do a simple copy and paste and then put it there for food too. So if it's 1, and so now we can just copy this here and then say that if the service is 2, and then they're in the whitelist for food. Okay, and then if they are not in the whitelist, we can say that what? They are not authorized for this service. Okay, so we can proceed to the next step of what they are going to see. So, and what they are going to see, so we do have our else if here. So we can continue with another one and say that on the next screen, so if the user passes what we have, and then we can say that else if the user's new session, okay, the user's new session is false. Okay, so their new session is false. Okay, the new session is false, and then the customer, okay, and then the step is also, so I can say the user session data, and then I can look at the step and then also say that, and I look at the step and I also say that if they are on step 2, okay, so if they're on step 2, so I can just pick the session ID here, and then I can say that if they are on step 2, so dot step is equal to 2, then I can go ahead and then do what? I can go ahead and then show them the next screen. So I can just what? Set the user session data that we have over here. So you realize that it's just a bit of a repetition that we are doing. Okay, so it's not anything so difficult to achieve. So we have our user session data. We are picking the one with the session ID provided to us, and then we are saying that right now we are taking what the customer's what phone number. So we can see that the phone number, if the we are setting that to what the user data that was provided. Okay, so I can say user data. Okay, so by user data, you see, I mean when you enter any kind of number on your keypad, that's the user data that we are receiving. So what we are doing is we are taking that data and we are doing what? We are storing it. We are storing it here. Okay, so that we can keep track. Okay, so all we are saying is that if that's the case, and then what the next thing we are going to do is that we are going to say that okay, if the user session data is still what, maybe they are in the service, okay, they are still in the first selection. So I can say user session data. So I'll just try to copy this here and then do this, and then I'll just change this to service so that we can move quickly. Okay, so I can say that if you are still what in service 1, then I want to show you something. So I'll just what remember that you are still in the first service, and then we are trying to repeat a lot of things so that it's easy to follow. So I can say that you are still what in the first service, and then I can go ahead and then do what? Ask for the amount that you are supposed to what? Pay. So how will I do that? I'm going to pass a message and then say that enter the amount to be paid. Okay, so entering the amount to be paid will be simple, and then let me just put a colon here, and then what are we going to do? Just like we've done for others, we are just going to what? Continue the session. Okay, so our continue session will be true, and then we can also go ahead and then what? Increment the step, just like we have here. We can increment the step. Okay, so in the same vein, if it's 2, we can also do the same thing. Okay, we can also do the same thing. So maybe I just copy and paste this here instead of an else. I'll just put this here, and then same thing, enter amount to be paid. Maybe you can just change the service to a 2. All right, and then we can move that way. Okay, all right. So after this, then I can say that if the user, okay, we will just move on to the third screen quickly. Can say that if okay, we are on step 3, so you see we can just copy this as we have here and then paste this here. So if the user is now on the third screen or the third step of our flow that has been provided, then we are going to do a couple of things. Okay, we are going to take an amount of money from the user. Okay, so that amount, you see that every single time we do it, we take the user data and then we assign it to what? Something in our session data. You see that we have over here. So currently we are supposed to enter what? An amount. We are supposed to add an amount to it. So I can easily say that what? My user session data with the session ID, okay, and then the amount property will be what? Equal to the user data that was provided. Say the person enters 4 CDs, 5 CDs, 30,000 CDs. We are going to what? Store that what? In amount. Okay, we are going to store that in amount. All right, so after storing that amount, the next thing that we are supposed to do is to do what? We are supposed to maybe just run a simple check and then say that. So right now that we've also what we've passed this, we can say that if the users, if the session data, and then we have the session ID, okay, and then they are still on what? If they are on the first service, Okay, they're on the first service, we can throw them, and which is service 1, we can what? We can tell them that if you are still in service 1, then we are going to confirm a few things. So after the user has entered, I can say maybe they are still in service 1, okay, just to keep track. At any point in time, you could be hard pressed to find a service if anything drops. So it's always good to have track of wherever you are, especially if you have multiple streams that you'll be doing the payments from. Okay, so we do have service 1, and then I can say that maybe on that screen. Okay, so I'll show a message that will say that they can what? Confirm. So confirm collection from maybe John Doe. Okay, for now, we will do something with the Junip API soon for you to know how we can make this a bit better. Maybe for fuel, okay, for fuel, since they are what? They are still in the first service. Okay, so since they are still in the first service, then they are going to enter what? So we are going to, in the confirmation message, will allow the user to what? Confirm or what? Decline this. So with the JuniPay API, we'll be able to tell the name from the number provided. So if the name doesn't match, it means that we need to give the user what? A chance to what? Cancel this. Okay. So maybe they will get a yes, sorry, a yes and then a no. Okay. So yes. And then we just get that, and then we'll say a no. Okay, they'll have a yes and then a no. All right, and then we can do what? We can increment the session step as we have over here. We can increment the session step and then continue what? The session, so that we can keep it open for the user. All right, so now that we've done this, we can repeat the same thing too for our um food. Okay, our food. Okay, you can use an else if and several things, but because I'm just using 2, that's why I'm using just 2 if branches for that. But you can decide to, if you have multiple, you can use the else if and then continue to check every single service to ensure that you have the appropriate stream, okay, for the person to be paying from. All right, so now that we are here, and then confirm collection from John Doe, and then I'm passing, and then I'm saying a yes or a no. After confirming collection from John Doe, I can continue, and then I can say that this branch that we have, okay, I can continue, and then I can say that if our new session is what? If our new session is false, okay, if our new session is what? Is false, and then the user has entered what? 1. The user data at that point is what? Is 1. Okay, this means that what? They are what? They are ready to what? Confirm. Okay, and then I'm also checking to see whether the step that we are on is a what? Is a step 4 of our flow. Okay, so step, and then I'm going to say that that is what? 4. Okay, and I'm saying, and I'm checking to that whether that's step 4 of our flow. Then we are going to do a couple of things. We are going to check whether they are using their what on the first service, and then we are going to what? Tell the person that they will receive a prompt soon, or we can check whether on the second service and then do the same thing. Okay, all right, so we will just proceed with that, and then I will just say that if the person, so we'll just put another if here, and then we can say that if the session data, okay, so if the user's session data, okay, and then we have our session ID to keep track, and we are saying that the session ID and then the step that they are on. Okay, if the step that they are on is the step 4, which we have over here, you can see that in the service is what? It's 1. Okay, so they're on step 4. We are still on the first. We are still checking to whether it's the first service. Okay, after confirmation, then we can say that just show the person, or the person who has it, show the person a message. So we can say service 1. Can just for redundancy's sake, and then we can say that if you've confirmed it, okay, so we see our user data 1 is what? The confirmation. And then we can say that, okay, so the person is going to receive a prompt soon to authorize maybe a payment for fuel. So I can say the customer will receive a prompt soon to authorize, okay, payment for fuel. Okay, and then maybe you can add a nice thank you after it. Okay, so they are going to receive a prompt soon for payment, and that means that at that point, what their job is what? Done. So we can what? We can end the session there. Okay, we can end the session. Okay, and then maybe we can so else if it is a 2, so yeah, so we can say if it's a 2, so we can just pick this here and then place this here, and then just to show you that the else if will still work, even though you see we have if here, but we can still use our else if and then proceed with this. We can say that else if the person service is what? 2, it means that what we can show them what? A different message. Okay, a different message. There are cleaner ways around this where you can pass variables in there, just do a bit of checking and then what? Provide the appropriate stream. But for the purposes of maybe those the first time for someone doing this, it's best to always what? Just go the long way, and then later the person can do what? Optimize. Okay, so if it's the second service, then I can just, so I'll just pick this, and then since our second service is what? Is food, I can say maybe food, and then in the same way, what? Their session will what? End. Okay, we can also even go ahead to delete their the session data here. Okay, you can go ahead to delete the session data. Oh, sorry, delete the session data, so that we can prevent people from doing what? From maybe hopping onto that session to do what? To do a few things. So we can say that that particular session ID that we had, so user session data with that ID, okay, with that session ID, we are what? We are deleting it, so we no longer have anything to do with it. Okay, and then we can say the same thing to if they are what? If they are buying food. Okay, so I can delete the session ID. All right, so now that we've deleted the session ID, you would realize that what we haven't considered, what if the user what? Enters a no instead. Okay, so we made a mistake. We didn't add our 1 and 2 here for the user to know what to enter. So let's say if it's a yes, okay, we know that what user data is 1, they can proceed. What if it's a no? Okay, so I can pick the same thing if it's a no. So I'll just copy this because of time, and they say that if it's a no, the user data is going to be what? 2, and then I can do something for them over here. So if it's a 2, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to take them back to what? Step 2. Okay, so if it's a 2, it means that what? They are not confirming. Probably the name is wrong. So I'm going to take them back to what? Step 2. Okay, for them to what? Enter the number of the customer again. Okay, to enter the number of the customer again. So you realize that we were on step 1, and when we added So we incremented our step over here. You see, we initialized with step 1, meaning that what we're on step 2 now, which is going to what take the customer's number, meaning that I can take them back, because we wouldn't want an instance where if a number is wrong, it means that you have to do what, go all cancel the whole thing and then start all over again. For example, if your USSD has a lot of menus, you wouldn't want your user to do what, to face that kind of challenge. So we can say that if if it's 2 that you entered, meaning that what, the person's details are not correct, I can say that what, go back, okay, using and then our session ID. I can tell you to do what, I can tell you to go back to what, step 2. Okay. Okay, so back to step 2, and then I can, in that same step 2, I can say that what, enter maybe the amount that is going to be what, that is going to be paid. Okay, I can what, show you that message again. Sorry, enter the number of the customer. Okay, so I can say that we are back in step 2, and then I can say that, okay, enter the message here will be enter the number of the customer. Okay, so that you are back in step 2. Okay, you are back in step 2, and then you are not going to what, have to go through everything again. Okay, enter the number of the customer. Okay, so you enter the number of the customer for okay, so enter the number of the customer again. And then okay, I think we may have missed something. So let's say as they are back here, we have to make sure that what, if the service that they are using, so we'll do another if here, and then just check to see whether, so the session data, and then we can say what, session ID. Okay, if the service that they are on is what, 1, that means that what, that's when we can tell them what, these things. Okay, if it's a 1 that they are still on, we can just pick this here and then say that enter the number of the customer for what, fuel payment. Okay, for fuel payment, right? And then in the other case too, we can say what, if it's a 2, then they are what, they are entering the, so we can just copy and paste this and say that what, if it's a 2, enter for food. Okay, so you enter the number of the customer for food. All right, and then since we've done that, we can what, just do another last check. Okay, we can do another last check here. There are a lot of if else's, because you have to what, do a lot of checks while you are doing these things. You would like your application to handle as many things as possible. So we are going to do a last check and then say that if the new session that we have is true, okay, and then we realize that, okay, fine, the person has entered the right USSD code. So our user data is what, it matches the USSD code. Then what are we saying? And then, but we check, and then we see that the person's number what is not included in the whitelist. Okay, the person's number is not included in the whitelist. As I said, Accel returns the person who hit that code to us. Then it means that we can what, immediately send a message, and that message is going to be you are not authorized for this service. Okay, you are not authorized for this service, and then we can what, immediately what, close their session. Okay, because we wouldn't want anyone at all just seeing our code and then triggering prompts on anyone's phone. Okay, and then the final thing is that if the person enters anything else, we can tell them that what is a wrong input, and then maybe close the session. So the message will be wrong inputs, and then we can do what, we can close the session. Okay. Okay, and then we can close the session. All right. So basically, we've been able to complete the USSD application. So we can begin to test it out and then see whether everything that we've passed is is working. All right. So for our request, we are going to be taking a new session. We will be passing an MSISD, and also we'll be trying to mock the kind of what Accel will be sending us. Okay, when someone actually gets to our USSD, and then so what we'll be receiving. So we can decide here, and then we can go to our body parameters, and then we can just pass some information here. And then we can see that if the new session is true, the number is an MSISDN of this number that I provided here. So it means that is the one that was whitelisted here. And then the network, Accel will also provide a network to us, and then we have a session ID. Then what happens next? So we would in the documentation, Accel mentioned that the requests are made via post. So it means that we'd have to change our method here to a post request. So we'll change this to a post, and then we will send this. All right, excellent. So you see, we are getting the information that this is Bob's Mini Mart, pay for fuel or food. All right. So our next request is going to be setting the new session to false, because it's not a new session, and our user data is now going to be 1. So let's say we want to pay for fuel. So I send it, and then as you can see, you are not authorized for this service. Okay, so it means that there is something that we probably missed. Okay, there is something that we probably missed. So we'll have to just go through quickly, and then okay. All right, so we'll just make another request quickly, and then okay. So we can enter the customer's number. So let's say I have a 0244444444 something, and then we pass that, and then we enter the amount to be paid. So maybe 23 CDs. We enter that, and then can we confirm collection for John Doe? I say yes with a 1, and then okay, I think I'm getting a wrong input here. Let's just check quickly. Okay, I think I would have to attempt this with the postman. Please hold on for me. Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, all right. Okay, changes to a false. So we make a request, and then okay. Looks like time is not on our side here. So I think I would quickly try to work on the Juni side so that we can proceed with this. Okay. All right. So for us to proceed with for Junip Pay, I think what we need is to just register on the platform, and then as I mentioned, some of the documents that the users need to register for the platform, and then you need to get, after registering, you will obtain a private key and use that private key to obtain a token that you would use to authenticate all your requests. Okay, that's used to authenticate all your requests. So the code for this will be placed on a GitHub, okay, on JuniPay's GitHub, so that you can take a look at it and then modify it to your heart's content. So don't worry, everything that we've done here will be put on GitHub so that you can modify it and then use it as you please. So I'll just do one thing. So I think I'll take this here and then I've written a bit of code here. Time is really on my side. Okay. And then I would place this here. Okay. So this is us making a request to JuniPay. So for JuniPay, they do have an endpoint, an API endpoint where you can get what the user's number. You can also, so by using what their resolve endpoint, you can get the user's information from their number. So instead of the John Doe that we're showing, we can show the user's actual number. They also have the endpoint to make the payment, okay, to trigger the prompt on the person's phone, and they take this information, and then we do we can return everything, and then we'll be done. Okay, so for this, all that we'll be doing is that we would, oh sorry, I think sorry, can anyone see my screen? It looks like I'm off, but
no, please, we can't see your screen.
okay, let me see what's wrong. Okay, is it showing now?
Not yet.
Oh,
It's actually loading, so I think we can wait for a while.
okay, all right. So I think I'll just add this to it. Okay, so I've added a bit of information concerning this. So we have the endpoint here in our JuniPay controller file, and then you can see that I have a mock token over here that we are using.
William,
Yes.
William, please, we can't see your screen.
Wow.
Yes. Okay, Michael says it's in.
Oh, okay. So is it in now? I stopped sharing and then I came back. Is it in now? Okay, so if it's in now, I think we can proceed. So if you look at what we have here, just added a few things to it. I don't know, I think it looked like I went off for a bit, but so if you can see, we have a regex just to check whether the number is the proper number, and we also have the amount that is has entered. We are also doing that check. I've added a couple of numbers to the whitelist. And then what I'm doing with Juni here is that I've just integrated their verify endpoint here. So if someone is buying fuel, what am I doing? I'm passing the phone number and then the result that I get from it. So we can confirm collection from the from the person's name and add their number, so that if it's an attendant standing at post, they can do they can see the actual name and then do the confirmation there. Okay, and then we proceed a bit, and then what I'm doing here is now that I'm making a call to their pay endpoint. Okay, to their pay endpoint, and then the person is getting the prompt. All right, so we will just make a request quickly, then do a quick check. Okay, so we'll pass this. Uh, uh, Uh-oh. Looks like we have something off here. Okay, I think we just have to npm install a few things. Okay, so we can just make the request again, and then looks like something is. Okay. It looks like something. Okay. Okay, so I think we just have to install a few packages. Okay, all right. Okay, so I do believe we can make our request now. Okay, all right. Okay. So we can go ahead and then set the user data as 1. Maybe we are paying for fuel. We are entering the customer's number. So if anyone could give me their number so that we could test this. You could mention it if you do. Grace, if you have a number for Momo payment, you can let me know. Hello? Hello? Okay, I think I'll just use my number. All right. And then we send amount to be paid will probably be 1 CD. And then I do a send. And then you can see that we have the name now. Please confirm collection from William Kwejo Owusu. And then my number so that the attendant can confirm that. So we'll confirm again with a 1. We'll send the request. And then, yeah, okay. So the customer will receive a prompt to authorize payment soon for fuel. It'll be hard to share my screen. I think my phone, the phone screen here. But if anyone wants to try, you can give me your number and then I'll add that to the white list. And then you can try on your phone and then we'll see whether it will appear on anyone here's phone. Hello? Okay, all right. I think I can see a hand up. Okay, so I think I can see Richmond's hand up. Okay, so Richmond, you can. Oh, okay. I think I've. Oh, okay. It looks like All right. So I think I'll take the last one I saw, which is a Mark Atta Mensa. Then I'll just add you to the white list. Okay. So meaning that you can trigger a prompt. All right. So Mark, your number has been added, and then you can trigger a prompt on I think Richmond Podo's number. Okay, maybe a 1 CD. Please don't let it be too much. So you can trigger. So Mark, your number has been added. So you can dial *928 *38 hash. Okay, *928 *38 hash, and then you can use Richmond's number. Okay, and then trigger. So you can just go through it. Welcome, you enter one, fuel, and so on, and then we'll see whether Richmond will get the prompt. All right. Okay. Okay, so I can if you can see my screen, you can see that I can tell that a few of you are trying, but you are not authorized for the service. So only the person whose number I added, I think Makata Mensa, for now can actually do the accessing, because we are checking to see whether the person is in a white list. As I said, security is very important when it comes to this. So Mark, if you can, please do. If not, Grace, I think if you are available, I can add your number and then you actually attempt this so that we can proceed.
Hello, William. I think you can use my number.
Okay, 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 all right. That'll be fine. Okay. Okay, so I'll just add yours. Okay. Okay, Joseph, so have I got it right?
So it's supposed to be 0546749482.
No, okay, 0546749
49482.
482. Okay, all right. Okay, looks like we do have Okay, so Joseph, I think I can see that you are done. Did you receive a prompt?
So I just completed it. I'm waiting for the prompt.
Okay, okay, all right, all right.
Hello, William. I'm not receiving the prompts. I don't know if any of the others was able to receive the prompt.
I'm not receiving a prompt. Okay, well, okay, because let me try it on my end. Okay, so I'll be attempting that on your number. Let me just pick that up quickly and then. All right, Joseph, have you received a prompt?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I don't know why you're not receiving a prompt, but probably maybe network issues. But I think so. Our code is working, and the users can receive. Also, if you're a business, you can now receive your payments with your USSD application, which has been created with Accel and then integrated with the JuniPay API. And you have the option to do what to prevent just anyone at all from accessing your USSD. So this will probably go into a database. For the purposes of this, we just store this in an array. But this can probably go into a database where you do a check to see whether the number what's triggering the prompt is actually from a list that you've set. We have regex here to check everything that has been passed, and then we are ensuring that every avenue is covered when it comes to this. So I think that's it for our live integration session. So I'm just going to touch on a few things here, and then I think I'll open the floor for any questions that are available. All right. So when it comes to the benefits of integrating a payment, application with your USSD, we can tell that there are a lot of benefits to this. One benefit, or in fact, a few benefits that I'm going to touch on will be increased revenue, because your users don't have to do your users don't have to go to they don't have to go online, go through a lot of things just to just to collect payments. Okay, and you also have reduced payment processing costs. So if you look at the price that I had to pay for having a USSD available, it's quite cheap to be able to get the number of payments that we have. Accel is also providing that, and we have an efficient payment collection in addition to enhanced customer experience, because the process is simple and it's quick. You enter 1, 2, 3 details on your phone, and then you are done. There's also a bit of a competitive advantage when you have this included, because you wouldn't, as other competitors are doing web and maybe POS somewhere. You can you have a USSD application that can easily trigger a prompt, and then you are good to go. Okay. A few challenges while building something like this. You would realize that you'd have to maybe go through a bit of compliance. Security would also have to be tight. So if your security is not tight, you might face a few issues here and there. Sometimes the network reliability, if MTN or Vodafone is down, you might face one or two issues. Also maybe transaction limits, service downtimes, handling errors. Okay, those are all things that you'd have to take a look at. Okay, maybe if you are using it for external payments to outside Ghana payments, it means that exchange rates might also be a problem. In addition to that, maybe data privacy. So it's something that you'd also have to look at when it comes to the integration. We would also look at a few use cases for integrating your USSD application with what Junip Pay or a payment service. I mean, there are several use cases present. We saw one where if someone has a mini mart, they can what collect payments. Okay, so if you want to do mobile banking, e-commerce or online shopping, so you have a shop, maybe even an online shop, a sneaker shop, and you like to what collect payments when people come to your shop to buy things. This is a very good way to go because you don't even need internet, and even with JuniPay, you have a dashboard where you can view all payments that have come. So it's almost like an all-in-one solution for you. You have maybe healthcare services, remittances, retail, fuel and gas stations, accommodations. In fact, there are several use cases that you can mention when it comes to this. I think I'll talk about security and then some of the resources, and then we'll be done. So when it comes to security, you have to make sure that every key that you are using. So for example, for JuniPay, you are provided with a private key, which you can use to generate a token. In your application, you have to ensure that you are using environment variables or you are encrypting whatever you have in a way so that people cannot just snoop and then pick up your token and then use it for whatever that they want to do. You also have to perform authentication. Okay, that's where we did what? We blocked access from our USSD application and limited it to only some users. Okay, you have to ensure all that too. In addition to that, you also have to what? Authorize. Okay, so even in our USSD application, we can even go a step further and say that for these particular set of numbers, let them access only this portion. And for this portion, let them what? Let these other users what? Access this portion. Meaning that your USSD application can cater to several different sets of what? Of people. Okay, and you are going to be okay. All right, so some of the resources that we use were the Accel and then JuniPay. Okay, so we would provide a link to the GitHub repo where you can find the code, and then Accel will push that out to everyone who was able to make it here, and then we would, I think, would be okay or clear that way. All right, so currently, I think we have any questions and answers that would like to be asked. So if there are any questions, I think my moderator would handle that from this point on.
Thank you very much, Mr. William. We're really grateful for such an insightful class. Please, do we have any question? If we do, kindly raise your hand and then I would. Okay, I see quite a number of hands raised, and I know there were previous hands, so I don't know if they are pending questions. But let me start with Richmond. Richmond Kodo, please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, Richmond, we can hear you.
Okay, so mine actually wasn't a question. It was when he wanted the phone number to, do the testing. That is why I raised my hand to give him my number.
You raised. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine then. Call Ken. I'm very sorry if I don't get the name right. I also see that your hand is raised. I don't know if it was because of the number. Subtech Hub.
Yeah, hello.
Yeah, Subtech Hub. Sorry. Do you have a
Mine
question for us?
yes, please. Mine had to do with where the guy was trying to make the payment and the prompt couldn't appear. I'm just pleading if you could add a small delay to the code where the code is asking for or making a payment prompt to the person's number. And let's see if that one is going to work. I think the other time I tried and I was having a similar problem. So if you could add a small delay to that portion, like 3 seconds or 4 seconds, let's see if that's going to work.
Okay, Mr. William.
Okay, so okay. So please, the name is Richmond, right? Or it's not Richmond. I can see Subtech.
No, it's Septic Hub.
Subtech. Oh, okay. So all right. So I think I'll just could you please give me your number? Let's see whether we can trigger the prompt on your phone.
It's 0244
Okay.
89
89.
52
Please come again. 024489
5292.
5292. 024489 5292.
Yes, please. Kindly check the comment section. You see it.
Okay. All right. So the name has come, Solomon.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Okay. So have you received the prompt?
Yes, please. But I want to try on the phone.
Yeah, I know. I tried on the phone. I didn't actually even try in Postman. It was on the phone I tried on. So I think sometimes, you see, as I mentioned, some of the challenges is that the service provider might, cause a bit of an issue. But this was done directly from my phone.
Okay.
Yeah, I do wish I could share my phone screen so that like you could see me going through the process. It's quite unfortunate that I do not have Teams on my phone, so that's why. But I did this directly from my phone. Yeah.
Mine had to do with, I had similar issue. So I was thinking that maybe that could be the issue. I was using JuniPay and then one USSD. Though I'm not good in Node.js, I was using PHP. So when you try to make the payments, where the system will print out or it will pop up that you have made this payment, or this and this prompts will come to your phone. That message was blocking the payment prompts. I don't
Oh,
know
really?
whether you it was blocking the payment prompts. So what I did was I placed a delay. Even
Okay.
PHP is very difficult. I don't know how that is done in Node.js. That is why I was trying to ask if that could be possible. If you
Oh,
could
okay.
try that,
Oh,
if it
and
was that would
okay, so I'll just mention the course of time. I think it's almost 8:30. So you just have to use maybe a set timeout to do something like that. If you want a delay, you can just use a set timeout so that you wait for a number of seconds before maybe showing that.
okay.
Yeah, so it's called set timeout in JavaScript. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Please, do we have any last question? It's almost 8:30 and would want to wrap up the session. If you have a question, kindly raise your hand and I would call you. Okay, Michael Jemfi. Michael, please, what's your question? Can we please make it as fast as possible? Hello, Michael. Hello, Michael. Okay, looks like I can't reach Michael. Holly has also raised his hand. Holly, please shoot your question.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, hi, Holly. We
Hello?
can hear you.
Yeah, my question is I actually joined in late because I was having problem connecting. So I want to see if there is a recorded version that you can share with me.
Fully, please, I'm sorry, I didn't get you. I didn't get the last.
Yeah, I said I didn't join in early because I had issue connecting. So I wanted to find out if there is a recorded version that you can share with us.
Yes, please. It will be we will upload it onto our YouTube channel. So I'm going to share the link right away. So you can kindly subscribe. Everyone here can please subscribe to our YouTube channel so that once we upload it, you get notified and then you can follow through.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
So I've added it to the chat section.
All right, then I'll click the link and then copy it.
All right, sure.
Okay, so
Thank
Grace, I also
you.
want to add that Holly, so we would also be placing the code on GitHub. So
All right.
when that is ready, we'll also put that in the YouTube video description so that even if maybe there's a bit of a lapse somewhere, you can go to the code and then take a look at it and then run it when you can.
Okay. All right. Thank
Okay,
you.
so I think it looks like we have no more questions. I think we are done with the questions for today. I really hope it's been an insightful one. I hope we've learned a lot. Thank you so much, Mr. William. I'm very, very grateful. Accel is very grateful. And thank you for everything you've done this evening. And to our attendees, thank you so much for spending such time with us. It's not easy to have over 2 hours. Sorry, about 2 hours. It's been 2 hours now. And you've stayed glued from beginning to the end. I really want to say a very big thank you to you. Thank you so much. And very soon we'll be launching our next webinar. And do I see more questions? I think I'm getting feedback. Okay.
Michael had wanted to say something at the beginning.
Okay, Michael.
Yes, and my microphone wasn't enabled, that is why I couldn't speak.
Oh, sorry about that. So sorry.
No problem.
Please shoot your question.
So, about the YouTube channel, I was just asking, the frequency of posting stats there about Accel. I'd like it if, from time to time, Accel posted tutorials on real world scenarios, how their APIs can be used out there, because sometimes it's not easy for starters, that is web developers who come out there trying to get into the API side of the world. So I've used Accel's services for a long time and it's good, but when it comes to the tutorials, I wish that there will be more of it on the YouTube channel. Tutorials about real world scenarios, what you can use the APIs for in the real world, and I think that it will help a lot.
Great. So currently thank you very much for this feedback. It's a work in progress. It's something we are working on. So I'm sure you would, so please do well to subscribe on our YouTube channel. That's everybody here. So that once we upload it, you get notified. You can even click on the notification bell so that once the upload is done, you get notified. And I'm sure we will take it from there. But thank you so much, Michael, for that feedback. I'm very grateful. Let me check in the chat. Okay, Nicholas is also saying yes, the tutorials will really help. We will do that. So please, once again, subscribe to the YouTube channel so that you can be notified when we upload these tutorials, right? Okay. So I think that is, yes, please. That's great. I think that's all for tonight. Like I was saying, thank you so much again. It's been almost 2 hours with you, and I really appreciate your time and your presence here. Okay, one more question. Steven or Steven Tay. I'm sorry if I murdered your name, but Steven, please, do you have a question? If you're speaking, please take notes. Your microphone is on mute. So if you can please unmute yourself.
William Alebe. Hello. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, please, Mr. Stephen. Yes, I can
Hello.
hear you.
Oh.
Hi,
Yes.
Mr. Stephen. We can hear you loud and clear.
So with respect to security, Mr. William added the whitelist so he can restrict the service to some particular group of people. So say if I'm building this for a school, for let's say fee payments collection, do I have to maybe design the system such that it's restricted to just parents whose words are there? And say if a parent would want to make a payment with a number that is not included in the whitelist, how do you combine these two scenarios? I don't know if you get me.
Okay, Mr. William.
Okay, all right. So Stephen, thank you very much for your question. So what we built, okay, is let's say is business facing. So it means that for something like this, as a developer, you've built it for the school and for maybe someone like an accountant or a bezer to do what? To collect payments. So that means that the whitelist that you're going to do is going to be phone numbers of maybe the bezer, the accountant, or anyone in the school who can do what? Who can trigger the prompt on the payments, sorry, on the parent's phone. Okay, who can trigger the prompt on the parent's phone. So you have a school and then maybe you have 10 people who can do that. That means that you know each of their numbers and you can do what? Create a whitelist for only those 10 people. So it means that no one at all can what? Trigger the payment. Okay, so only those people can trigger the payment. If you want to also go a step further and then also add numbers of parents, okay, so that won't be part of your whitelist. Okay, as for by that I mean that for those who can trigger the payment, but that will be part of another list of people who can do what? Who can do the payment. So that means that if the bezer triggers the prompt and it's not to a number that has been what? Registered in the school, you can also place that in your code and say that number prompts can only be triggered on so and so numbers. Okay, so probably you have a database of all the parents in the school's numbers, so only those parents' numbers. Okay, so that it means that the bezer cannot do what? Trigger someone sitting somewhere's number. Okay, with your code. So that means that what you have what? Even increased security that way. It might be a bit of work on you, but security is hard work. So you can also do it that way. So currently what we built is business facing. So only the people in the school have a set number and they are the only ones who can trigger prompts. So I hope that answers your question.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then maybe finally, most of my work are with Python. I think he used Node.js.
Yes.
So I don't know if there will be some API for Python developers.
Oh, so yes, so for the APIs, you can consume them with any language that you have. So that's the JuniPay API. You can consume them with any language. I believe Accel too, with how to set up the USSD too, you can set it up in any language. So what we'll try to do is the first release will be in Node.js or JavaScript, so that we can add on
Okay.
subsequent implementations in this. One at all can pick and have a fair idea of how the
see. I think there's something wrong with the microphone. Yeah. Mr. William, can you please unmute yourself?
Oh yes, I'm here.
Yes. Okay. We have a question in the chats. It says, with delay of prompts, it's an issue with, I don't know if it's a question or a comment, but this how it reads. It says, with delay of prompts, it's an issue with only MTN users. Other networks do not experience that. I guess that's supposed to be a comment.
Yes, I guess so. I guess MTN has had a few challenges, so it's probably probable that this might also be the case for MTN users. So you see, thank you for that. I think this is insightful.
All right. Once again, thank you. I guess there are no more questions. We can wrap up for this night. Thank you so much. We will be launching our next webinar soon, and once we are settled, we will let everyone on this call know about our next meeting. Thank you very much once again, and have a lovely evening. Bye.
All right. Thank you everyone for your time too. Thank you.